In the quiet hush of history, there are names that drift like wind through forgotten lands. Names that once commanded armies, shaped nations, and bent the will of empires. Now lost beneath dust, silence, and deliberate erasure. Among them is Queen Abeni. Her name barely survives in books. Not a statue stands in her honor. No grand chronicle records her life. And yet, her memory echoes still, in lullabies, in whispered prayers, in symbols carved where no conqueror dared look. This is her story, or rather, the story that survived. Before borders, before colonial flags fluttered on foreign soil, there was the kingdom of the river lions, a lush land nestled between braided rivers, thick forests, and endless skies. Traders from across Africa came to barter here. Salt, gold, cloth, and stories changed hands under the gaze of proud stone guardians. The people lived in rhythm with nature. Hunters, weavers, musicians, warriors, and above them all, guided by ancestral spirits, ruled the House of Lions. Queen Abeni would become its most radiant and most feared ruler. Abeni was born beneath a full moon, to a queen of noble birth and a warrior of distant lands. From her earliest days, she was unlike the other children. While others played, she listened, to elders debating, to traders haggling, to the wind rustling stories through leaves. At night, she would sit beside her grandmother, memorizing the proverbs, legends, and laws whispered in firelight. She was the daughter of two bloodlines, diplomacy and defiance, a child of two worlds, and she was watching. At 13, she underwent the leopard's trial, an ancient rite reserved for future leaders. Alone, she was sent into the jungle to face both fear and spirit. Most returned bruised, shaken, changed. Some never returned at all. Abeni emerged not only alive, but reborn. In her hand, she carried a leopard's claw, a symbol that she had not fled, but stared into the eyes of the beast and stood her ground. The elders called it a sign. The people called it a miracle. The throne was watching. So were foreign eyes. Fate dealt its hand when sickness swept through the royal line. Abeni's older brothers, strong and promising, were taken by the fever. In their absence, the crown, still warm with sorrow, was placed upon the head of a 17-year-old girl. Some scoffed, some trembled, but Abeni did not waver. In her first week, she dissolved corrupt councils. In her second, she restructured the militia. And by the third, her people had a new name for her, the Iron Flower. Beautiful, but unbreakable. While other rulers sought power through conquest, Abeni wove her influence like a web. She invited feuding tribes to festivals of drums and dance. She offered gifts of salt and protection, but only in exchange for loyalty sealed with song. Marriages were arranged like chess moves. Markets flourished, borders blurred. Her kingdom expanded not by blood, but by choice. Even her enemies admitted it was better to stand beside Abeni than against her. But the world beyond her borders was changing. From across oceans, foreign ships arrived like steel birds on the horizon. They brought iron, smoke, and lies. The jungle, once filled with bird calls and drums, echoed with unfamiliar thunder, muskets, cannons, the metallic ring of invasion. Traders came first, friendly smiles hiding maps and schemes. Missionaries followed, preaching peace while paving roads for conquest. Abeni watched. She listened, and she prepared. A European envoy, finely dressed and sweating in the heat, came to Abeni's court. He brought parchment and promises, friendship, mutual benefit, protection. He spoke of gold and God, of peace and partnership. Abeni said little. She simply read the treaty, line by line, word by word. And then she did something unexpected. She smiled and set the paper down. Without a word, Abeni stepped to the hearth, lifted the treaty, and cast it into the fire. The envoy gasped. The court fell silent. The parchment curled, blackened, and turned to ash. Abeni turned and said, "I will not sell my people with ink. If they want our land, let them try to take it with blood." War had not yet begun, but in that moment it had already been won, in spirit. The jungle stirred. The drums returned. War dancers painted their bodies with ash and red clay. Spears were sharpened, arrows blessed by ancestral fire. The forests became ambushes. Rivers ran with shadows. Every tree whispered resistance. Abeni did not hide in palace walls. She rode with her warriors, her cloak made from the skin of the leopard she once faced. They called her Mãe da Sombra, Mother of the Shadows. European officers feared her more than any army. They reported skirmishes where her face appeared and vanished. Camps were attacked in the night, ammunition stolen, leaders disappeared. One general wrote, "She is not a queen, she is a ghost with a crown." Abeni had become myth, and myths are harder to kill than queens. But not all dangers come from outside. Within her court, a cousin once loyal grew jealous, hungry for power. He met with foreign officers in secret. He revealed Abeni's roots, her hideouts, her numbers, and for a sack of silver, he traded the fate of his queen. The invaders didn't cheer. They knew, even captured, she would never kneel. The capital fell after 40 nights of siege. Smoke rose where drums once rang. Her palace was breached, but Abeni was gone. No body, no surrender, no final words. Only a single note left behind, burned at the edges. You can break stone, but you cannot break memory. The new rulers wasted no time. Maps were redrawn, temples desecrated. Her name was struck from records. Statues melted. Teachers forbidden to speak of her. Books rewritten. The silence wasn't an accident. It was a weapon. Erasure is the colonizer's sharpest sword. But in huts lit by fire and moonlight, stories still breathed. Grandmothers sang lullabies of a queen who never died. Children whispered her name into riverbanks and trees. In their hearts, Abeni was not gone, only sleeping, watching, waiting. Old warriors claimed she appeared in dreams, as a lioness walking through flame, as wind that guided their arrows, as the voice that said, "Stand." Legends say the land itself remembers her, and when needed, she will rise again. The women remembered her with their hands. In every woven scarf, every stitched hem, there were secret symbols, her crest, her initials, her story, passed from mother to daughter, from cloth to soul. A silent rebellion, a living memory. There is no statue of Abeni in any capital, but her monument is a hill, a tree, a hidden spring where prayers are still whispered. To those who remember, every stone sings her name. A century later, a young historian, herself born from the bloodline Abeni once protected, returned to the villages. She asked, she listened, and slowly, voices long silent began to rise. The truth, buried deep, began to bloom again. Today, you will not find her in textbooks. You will not hear her story in schools. But you are hearing it now. And in hearing it, you make it live again. Her name is Queen Abeni, not forgotten, not erased, remembered, resilient, eternal,